Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm farrukh pitafi. Viewers, once again we are going to talk about Pakistan's politics, and you realize what else to talk about when the Parliament has made it a show of itself. You are seeing violent images coming from Parliament. Yesterday we saw lawmakers chucking books at each other, and now we have seen them throwing sanitizers and bottles. This is not something out of ordinary in Pakistani parliamentary history. A lot of violence has been seen, but what worries a spectator or observer is the escalation ladder that you can see right now. Because yesterday it was only copy of budget, books. And today you are physically seeing something physical and harder being thrown at each other. It can lead to real violence, and that's why we saw at least some kind of management or attempt to manage this situation. You can see a letter by the Speaker, National Assembly, who decided that 7 lawmakers from both sides, Treasury and opposition benches, who were barred from entering the parliamentary proceedings. The word has it that opposition members were still found in the same gathering. But regardless of that, at this moment, this actually is more worrying than you would think, because A, it undermines the image of Parliament, it undermines the image of the parliamentarians, and by extension, the image of democracy itself. These are the lawmakers who are supposed to actually go and make laws for you, ensure policy transparency, and somehow it seems that they are not even ready to tolerate each other. Shehbaz Sharif, the opposition leader and head of PMLN, tried to speak for a third day today, despite the fact that there were law enforcement, parliamentary law enforcement officials surrounding him. He could not finish his speech even today, and the government benches actually keep on saying that it is karma or payback time. But the fact is that this attitude has been seen from the opposition as well, and we have seen abusive language, physical violence, and then people being hurt. What if things go beyond this? Let us hope it doesn't. We are going to talk about these matters, and then, of course, nitty-gritty of the budget speech as well, budget bill as well. We are going to talk about all these matters. In order to help us understand these issues, we are joined by Ibrahim Khan Sahab. Muhammad Ibrahim Khan Sahab is MNA of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the ruling party, and a regular on this show, on this channel. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Barrister Safiullah Ghori actually joins us as not only as a legal expert, but also as the conscience of the program, who is going to blackmail everybody that you have to actually behave better. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. And the third guest who is going to join, I'm not sure whether he has already joined. We are going to be joined by a representative of opposition as well on telephone. The moment he joins us, I'm going to introduce him as well. Let me start with Muhammad Ibrahim Khan Sahab, who was in the parliament today as well in the National Assembly. Ibrahim Khan Sahab, how many bottles did you chuck today?
Well, I did not even swing a single one.
Okay.
But there were some parliamentarians sitting behind us from the opposition side, from where it literally, I saw that bottle, that was a sanitizer bottle.
Okay.
Flying at a speed of God knows what, but it slipped on a desk and straightly hit Mr. Chima on his nose side, and he was bleeding. I think it's the most unfortunate part and uncalled for
Mr.
kind
Chima?
of action. Chima is one of our MNA from Karachi.
Your MNA, because
Yes.
the other MNA who joins from PMLN is also Dr. Nisar Ahmed Chima, who just joined on telephone. But I just wanted
not
to
him,
disambiguate.
definitely. This is an MNA from Karachi.
Right.
And so it's unfortunate kind of a situation where, people are trying to show more sort of loyalty to their leaders than the leaders themselves.
Right. It is the height of tribalism, right? It
Yes.
might be tribalism, but the question is, in the history of Pakistani budget speeches, at least I've covered 20, it usually happens that opposition tries to create as much ruckus as possible. But usually it is in the interest of the treasury benches to endure that and to actually reach out and let the other side also finish, because then they have a vested interest in getting the money bill passed. Why is it that this government actually decided the other way around?
It's not the government which has decided, it was the circumstances in which certain individuals have reacted to an action. And one way or the other, I'm not trying to get into a blame game like who started it first and who responded secondly. But in both cases, I think people should refrain from these kind of, the nation expects a lot more from us than throwing bottles or throwing books at each other.
Okay.
And I think this is the way forward. And the opposition should also should pay some attention and show some seriousness into the issue.
Right.
And I mean, even whatever little part of speech Shahbaz Sharif has been able to deliver, not even a single digit he has been talking about the budget. All his speech was like blame game, this is right and this is wrong. And this is not objective. I mean, as a leader of the opposition, he should be also behaving in very responsible manners. And,
regardless of that,
get straight to the point, and it's a budget discussion and
I get
celebrations.
That. I get that, and I'm going to actually come back to Safiullah Wari Saab as well, because as I promised that you are going to be the conscience, so I will keep you at the in the last, right, to nag us all. But regarding the way things were being chucked, one argument is that there shouldn't be any sharp object allowed on the floor of the house, because in the past there used to be the seats that could be actually removed. Now they cannot be physically used against each other. But I'm going to actually first bring in Dr. Nisar Ahmed Cheema Saab. Nisar Cheema Saab, you have been a parliament for quite some time. Question is, why is it our lawmakers doing all this?
That's very unfortunate. Yesterday, day before yesterday, even today, these days will be remembered as dark days in the parliamentary history of Pakistan. For the first time in the history of Parliament, we have come across such filthy and abusive language, and that too from the treasury benches. And the Prime Minister himself, in the parliamentary party meeting, he issued directions that you can ask Brother Ibrahim Khan, he would bear me out, that the Prime Minister issued directions. He directed the members of PTI that Mian Nawaz Sharif and Bilawal Bhutto should not be allowed to deliver speeches. These were his clear directions.
Nothing in my knowledge of that sort.
Right. Cheema Saab, just to qualify.
And he also, unfortunately, Prime Minister.
I'm going to let you complete, sir, just to actually introduce a small intervention, because Ibrahim Khan Saab just spoke.
Cheema Saab, I can tell you this on oath that we were not told. I don't know of any of this kind of like the information you are telling me. Like, he's my Prime Minister. If anything, if he had issued any orders, then that I should have been one to know.
Right.
Instead, you are saying that I am simply denying it in complete totality, and also these are the rumors. I mean, just finding out the rumors and spreading it is not going to
Allow me to go back to Cheema Saab. Cheema Saab, just to correct a little bit of history as well. You said that this was first time in the history of Pakistani Parliament that this happened. Actually, before Ayub Khan Saab's time, there was so much violence that a deputy speaker was killed. I don't want that to be any kind of standard.
Not in the National Assembly. Pitafi Sahib, not in the National Assembly.
Okay.
Not in the National Assembly and during Ayub Khan's time. No Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly was killed.
Okay.
Let me put the record in the state. It might be in some province, I don't know, but in the National Assembly, not at all. My maternal uncle used to be the senior Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly of United Pakistan from 1962 to 1965. So I know and I remember the events very well. And the other thing is that it is for the first time in the history of Parliament that the leader of the opposition was not allowed to speak.
Okay.
It's so unfortunate. It's against all the parliamentary norms and traditions. I mean, the leader of the opposition has the right to speak. You know, he has to analyze the budget. He has to bring the facts to the nation. I mean, he has of course he was using his right to speak, but the treasury benches they as planned, they didn't allow him to speak, and then they used abusive language, and then they threw the books on him. They attacked the leader of the opposition with books, and you can ask Ibrahim Khan Saab, he will bear me out that yes, they attacked the leader of the opposition with the budget books. You know, I mean, so unfortunate, using abusive language and then throwing books on the leader of the opposition. I mean, where we are going? I mean, we are heading towards a total anarchy. But unfortunately,
right. I'm going to come back to you, sir, and we are going to actually ask whether there is a possibility of coming back from this chaotic moment in history. Let me first ask Safiullah Ghari to actually weigh in and to nag away. And then, of course, I'm going to also ask you, do you think there's a possibility of return? Because it seems to be undermining our, as a citizen, our efforts to actually build up the image of parliamentary democracy.
So I was, whilst you were just doing the show, I was thinking about the fact that I've seen a lot of shows here that you have done on PTV, and in almost all of those shows you have people from the government and the opposition sitting discussing very contentious matters.
Yeah.
But there's never been a moment where they have attacked each other, assaulted each other, thrown books at each other, or in your presence tried to in any way try and overwhelm the other.
Okay.
And this goes on to show that
some of them actually at least desire to overwhelm me, but
and that's what the problem is. I feel like sitting here on the show, I feel like we're having a civilized conversation, and when I look at the assembly floor, it looks like a bunch of children who have absolutely no sense of responsibility towards their constituents, towards the laws of Pakistan, or towards even their own self-respect. They just don't seem to care about it, and it's very bothersome to think that these are the kind of people who have been put into power. People who cannot have a simple debate, people who do not allow the other party to speak. I'm not going to go into the details of whether it was opposition which was not allowed to speak, or whether it was the government which was not allowed to speak, because it will become a case of finger pointing, blame games. But what I do feel, and this is what's very important, what I do feel is that as a lawyer, we see that plenty of rules have been violated. So we have, for instance, absolute violations of the rules of conduct and the practices of business. Section 30, more than 10 subsections of Section 30 have been violated. We have a violation of Section 82, which says that no defamatory language should be used, and we have a violation of Section 21, which says that you must follow the instruction of the speaker, and if he tells you to, if he suspends you, if he asks you to go away, then you are to listen to him.
Right.
That is what the parliamentary procedure is. All of these rules have been violated, and frankly, I don't even care about the parliamentary procedure anymore. I am now concerned about the violations of the Pakistan Penal Code. These are matters of assault. This is not a joke. This is not even covered in parliamentary procedures. Nobody, when making these rules of businesses, was even thinking that something this bad could happen.
Okay.
And so we've had things like these happen elsewhere in the world. We've had things like these happen in Tunisia and Nepal and India, and people, unfortunately,
even in Pakistan,
unfortunately, even in Pakistan. The question is, what do we do next? And what's next is not suspending them. It is to file FIRs against them, to file criminal charges against them.
Okay.
Why is that not happening, is my question.
Right.
Why is it that these people who are now clearly caught on video assaulting each other, physically harming each other? You know, we have Barrister Malika, whose eye got injured.
Right. Malika Bukhari, she was wearing an eye, cover.
So her eye got injured. There are people who are suffering injuries, not just to their body, but also to their reputations, to their general mental well-being. I would, at least as a lawyer, believe that the correct thing to do in this case would be to apprehend these criminals and put them to task. It is not a matter of dealing with them in the parliament anymore. It is out of the purview of the Speaker
Can that
Senate.
happen?
That is what should happen according to the law of Pakistan. These people are
Yeah,
clearly
but
not
you're
outside
also-
of the law.
You're
of
also an
Pakistan.
idealist. I mean, in
Well, yes,
Pakistan,
that's what
everyone has
I'm just saying
politics.
that law should be implemented. Now, if we were to argue that no, law should not be implemented because these people are parliamentarians, then we are having a very different debate altogether.
Oh, but their speeches and actions on the floor of the house, are they not protected?
Assault is never protected. They are so their words are okay.
Qualify that.
Okay. So words are protected. They can say words. Okay. However, even words have a limit under Section 82 of the Rules of Business, where defamation is covered. But let's presume that the Speaker Senate and the Rules of Business are governed by the Speaker Senate. Let's presume that those things are dealt with by the Speaker, and the Speaker deems that a mere suspension is enough. So be it. But assault is not covered under the parliamentary rules.
Right.
There was assault. We could physically see our defense minister throwing projectiles in the form of sanitizer.
No, look at his physique. I don't think that could actually land as a projectile.
And so many others. And the fact that all of this happened makes me feel really ashamed. And all I want now is I want the police and the FIA to get involved. I want there to be FIRs. Let them go to court. Let them appear. Let them present their defense before a court of law.
Let me take this question to Ibrahim Khan Saab, but let me also slip in my piece. One of the unfortunate duties of being a father in this country is to explain to your children what is going on. And I thought that when APS Peshawar actually took place, that was the lowest time in my life, and I had to actually sit my two daughters. One of them is 13 now, one is 15. Sit them down and explain why are there people who want to kill kids, right? But today was again one of the lowest points, because I'm very aggressive about democracy. We are eating, and on television the violence is going on, and I was at a loss to explain to them what was going on. Now, how can we recover from this position?
Okay, you see, we are going through a transitionary period.
Yeah.
A transition from so-called democracy towards working towards, hopefully, the real democracy. Okay, as the Barrister Sahab was saying, even during Nawaz Sharif's government, there was a scuffle and punching each other which took place in the same National Assembly, and Nawaz Sharif's son-in-law was grabbing someone from the neck, and then they were slapping back and forth, and all that. Purpose is not, for mentioning this, is not to promote this kind of activity, but this is not the first time it's happening in Pakistan, but at least it should be the last time. It should not continue, because that does not, definitely from a parental point of view, from the parents' point of view, it's not really, you have a hard time explaining to your children, like your leadership is getting involved into this kind of activity. But you see, I look at it differently, since now things are changing for good. PMLN and
how are you going to convince us about that?
Yes,
how did today seems?
Of course I am.
Okay.
You see, the way, I mean, things were being handled in the, I call it black decade of democracy, the last 10 years.
Yeah, every decade we call it that.
Okay.
This has been happening throughout our history.
Now, things are, they were expecting, PPP and PMLN were expecting that we will not be able to come out of this ditch or come out of this economic disaster that they had created, the web they had created, economic, disastrous web. But luckily, or with the help and relentless, efforts made by our economic team and the supervision of the Prime Minister of Pakistan, we have been able to come out of that situation, and economically we are, in spite of COVID situation, we have been able to pull up the economy and at the rate of 4% GDP growth, with the 4% GDP growth.
We are further going to talk about the economy, but at this moment, first of all, you have to take care of what is going on the floor of the House. And just to understand, because when Safiullah Lahori was actually saying that there should be FIRs against these members, I was wondering whether it is possible for both of your parties, your and Cheema Saab's, to expel the lawmakers from the party who actually created so much of ruckus. Is that possibility?
I don't know, but all I can see is that yesterday's episode, I saw that PMLN's leader, one of the top leadership, Mr. Abbasi, who was ex-Prime Minister of, he was coming on to the floor and telling people to,
beat up people?
Beat up and all that.
No, actually he has given us the trailer before that. In front of the parliament as well. He says he has very big hands, right? He actually slapped somebody physically and then was running after them a few weeks ago. But let me go back to Dr. Nisar Ahmed Cheema Saab. Cheema Saab, I can understand why everybody wants to talk about the responsibility of the other side. When are we going to talk about our responsibility and take care of people who might be breaking law within our own ranks?
Everybody is of the opinion that any member using abusive language should not be spared at all. He or she must be brought to book. They must be brought to justice. Everybody who violates the rules, regulations, code of conduct, uses abusive language, must never be spared. He must be brought to justice. But the main responsibility lies on the shoulders of the Treasury benches and of course on the Speaker. Neither the Treasury benches nor the Speaker perform the duty, their moral duty, their legal duty, their constitutional duty. Unfortunately, they fail to perform their duty. And that is the reason, even today, everybody knows the people who used such filthy and abusive languages. But what action has been taken by the PTA leadership against them? No action at all. Rather, I'm sure they would have been encouraged, and they would have been, given shabash by the top leadership of PTI. That's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
But hang on, sir. Tell me, what can the Speaker do in this scenario? He has taken action. What next is the expectation? His action is discriminatory. His action is one-sided. The people who threw books while standing on the benches in the House, they have been spared. They have been spared. The ministers themselves, they were encouraging the people. They were throwing the books. They were encouraging the people. They were asking the people to attack. They were encouraging the members. Cheema Saab, then is it not true that Shahid Khan Abbasi Saab and many of your ex-ministers and prime ministers also were encouraging that kind of behavior?
No. The Shahid Khan Abbasi asked the members to come forward, but he never asked them. He never directed them. He never told them to attack the Treasury benches. Never at all. Never. I can assure you without any fear of contradiction. Whereas the ministers of PTI, they encourage their members to attack the Treasury benches.
Okay. Just to ask you, regardless of what Speaker does, what is your party going to do against the lawmakers from your party who might have actually shown that kind of conduct we have seen abusive language. Are you going to take any disciplinary action against them?
No. But, I mean, if they prove that any member of PMLN, he used abusive and filthy language, our leadership will never spare them. I tell you. I assure you.
How so, sir?
Yeah?
How so? Spare them how?
I mean,
are you going to expel them? Are you going to discipline them?
No.
Are you going to...
You are, Pitafi Sahib, it's very, very unfair that you are asking the victims, not the offenders, not the criminals.
No, I asked the government side as well. Chima Sahib, with due respect, I'm not a judge. I'm asking both sides. I'm asking both sides what action are they going to take against their own people.
I mean, it's very unfair. The leader of the opposition was not allowed to speak. We were the victims of abusive language, their attacks, physical attacks, and you are asking us that what action would be taken against your members. Very unfair, sir.
Chima Sahib, unless you think that I'm a judge, I cannot take sides. I'm just asking both sides. What action are you going to take against the lawmakers who might have violated discipline and law?
No, the MNAs of PTI who use the filthy language, the abusive language, the worst language ever seen in the house. What action the leadership of PTI has taken? No action at all.
I think you were not listening, Chima Sahib, because I asked exactly that thing. And I asked Ibrahim Khan Sahib whether they are going to expel those people or not. But naturally, everybody wants to talk about the other side, not their own. Coming back to the studio, do stay with us, Dr. Nisar Chima. Let me ask Barrister Safir Lahori. This will keep on happening.
Yeah.
Nobody is taking responsibility for what was done from their side.
And that is precisely why I think that we need law enforcement agencies getting involved.
Okay.
Because these parties are never going to take action against their own people. There's no way that's going to happen. They will continue to blame, play the victim cards. They will continue to think that they were the ones who were harmed, and so be it. Maybe that's their perspective. I'm not even going to try and adjudicate on that. My problem is that Section 352 of the Pakistan Penal Code was violated. There were instances of assault. There were people who got physically hurt, and I want the Islamabad police getting involved. It's a very simple demand. Why is the police not investigating into this? Why are they not arresting those people who are suspected? Because if these were not parliamentarians, if these were poor people, I assure you they would all be in jail right now.
I tell you something else, just to actually share with you something that has been tweeted in last hour or so, and it is from a journalist, a TV anchor. I'm not going to take her name, but I am going to read the tweet. It seems that it might be spilling out of the parliament itself. Allegedly, Alia Hamza, PTI's car, white, has been hit by Iqbal Bosal, PMLN's car, Prado, deliberately outside parliament. Right, Nasir Bosal.
So that's where we are now, right? That's if it's true. I don't know.
If it goes beyond
but yes,
that.
so if it's true, now they're ramming their cars into each other. Next, they'll be kidnapping each other. Next, who knows what's going to happen next? Where will this end?
Yeah.
So that's precisely why I'm saying this is a case fit for criminal investigation.
Okay.
Let the law take its course. I hope that the government or the opposition does not use their influence to try and to influence the police, the law enforcement agencies into not performing what their job is.
Okay.
This is an ideal case to show to the people of Pakistan, as Prime Minister Imran Khan said, there are no holy cows. If there are no holy cows, let the law take its course. Let it happen the way it is legally going to happen for me, for you, and for other Pakistanis.
Look, my frustration at this moment as a citizen is that this is a sideshow nobody could afford. Because at this moment we need unity in the country. We need a budget that takes care of the entire country, because you are simultaneously negotiating with IMF. In the region as well. There are security concerns from Afghanistan to India and elsewhere. At that time, instead of focusing on national interest, we are not even looking at our own interest.
And so this is where
if action takes place in a hung parliament, that means numbers will go down from both sides. it will make governance or lawmaking even more difficult.
Yeah, and so I think this is where we need to take a step back and try and understand where the most responsibility lies. So the reason why we are so hurt by a scuffle is not because it's a scuffle, but because it is a scuffle between the parliamentarians who are supposed to be the ideal representatives of the people. They represent their constituents, and they are given this position as a responsibility to represent the people. Now, similarly, when it comes to parliamentarians, there is a higher onus of responsibility on the ruling government, because they are the ones in power. They are the ones who are calling all the shots. And so when we talk about cleaning our house and we talk about taking steps, then it needs to start with the government. The government must fix itself. It must fix its own members. Thereafter, the opposition, and then from there, the rest of the people would follow. This is what Pakistan's Grundnorm, so to speak, is. The fountain of power which flows from the parliament and eventually goes into the people. People might disagree that it's the parliament which is the actual powerful institution within the country. But regardless, if you want to fix the country, then you have to start there, and you have to make examples out of these people.
Yeah, but that actually, every time this happens, it takes us back many years in the evolution of institutions. And Ibrahim Khan Sahab, just because on air I was accused of not asking you, but I asked you, should I even repeat the question, what action are going to take against the lawmakers from your side? I understand those who were actually manifesting the tribalistic spirit, they usually are rewarded, not punished, because they are showing their loyalty to their leadership.
You're absolutely right. And on the other hand, whatever little action the Speaker took, he expelled 7 members of Parliament from,
proceeding,
not to be able to attend the proceedings of the Assembly. All 3 members from the opposition, 2 from the PMLN and 1 from
People's
Party, all 3 of them came into the Parliament, and nobody could stop them. So, yes, I agree to a certain extent with the Barrister Sahab that yes, the law has to take its course, and the strict implementation of the law should take place, so that at least we can avoid these kind of embarrassing situations in future.
Such disciplinary action will not come from the party itself. It will have to come from the Speaker.
No, the party is one aspect of it, like it can be within the party, and as a custodian of the Parliament, Speaker also have a authority, a great authority. He's a custodian of the House, and he has to maintain discipline and law and order, like the way things were being handled today.
But here's the problem. And I'm grateful that at least the Speaker took some action, right? But a federal minister climbs a table. You know which minister I'm talking about, Minister Murtad. He stands there, and he is also actually participating in the whole activity. His name doesn't come up. Who's going to actually ensure this?
I tell you what, his name came up or did not come up is a separate issue, but it's a spontaneous reaction. If you get hit by somebody without any, instigation, and if you respond one way or the other, I'm not supporting what he did. But all I'm saying is, if you are being attacked, you have the right to self-defense.
And is there a possibility that the CCTV footage of the whole episode can be actually made public so that everybody knows who instigated what?
I'm sure, I think if they really want to sort things out, this is the way to go forward. Like who really started it, who really started the assault, and whoever from whichever party he is or she is, then they should be held accountable for that.
Right. Dr. Nisar Ahmed Cheema Sahab, while we are talking about a tribal culture in the Parliament, one question that actually came to mind when I saw the video of Malika Bukhari Sahiba sitting in front of camera with a bandage on over one of her eye, that at least in this cultural sense, we used to believe that women would be spared of such violence. But it seems that in the parliament it also goes. Is there at least a possibility that this bit can be actually sorted out? Because, I mean, it gives extremely bad image. Extremely. I cannot even emphasize how bad image it transmits to the world. And then, of course, one worries about the security of the female lawmakers within the parliament, which should be a protected space.
Whoever has been hit, whoever has been attacked, cannot be justified at all. I mean, it's very bad, very unfortunate. Whether it's Malika from PTI or Nasir Bosal from PMLN, who was also injured by the attacks of the PTI members. I mean, it's very unfortunate. Nobody can justify them. Nobody can defend the attackers. And I fully support the idea given by our brother, respectable brother Ibrahim Khan, that there should be a fair inquiry, transparent inquiry, and whosoever instigated, whosoever attacked the other side, whosoever used abusive language, must be brought to justice. I fully support this suggestion, this proposal, and I think it's something which is doable. I mean,
right.
we can very easily evaluate, assess the situation. We can easily find out the culprits very easily. There shouldn't be any problem. But you know, all the sides must realize their responsibilities, and the main responsibility, as I mentioned earlier, lies on the shoulders of the benches, as also on the shoulder of the Speaker, the custodian of the House,
right.
to maintain
But,
law and order.
Cheema Saab, today when Shehbaz Sharif Saab was standing, I noticed that he was surrounded by the parliamentary sergeants of arms. And one thought that can happen when the speaker has ordered it, right? And there was supposed to be a speech. At least you have to concede that the speaker is trying to take action, and he's trying to sort these things out.
My question is, my question to Brother Ibrahim Khan is that doesn't he know the federal minister, the young federal minister, who stood up on the benches and attacked the leader of the opposition with books? It's so visible, so conspicuous. Everybody knows throughout the country. But what action has been taken by the speaker against him? What action has been taken by the speaker against so many other ministers, including Fawad Chaudhry, against Shiri Mazari, Shafkat Mahmood, who were instigating their members? I mean, Brother Ibrahim Khan knows very well.
Okay.
What action has been taken by the speaker against these culprits?
Right. Cheema Saab, I will highly recommend that once we are done with this program, when it is repeated, you do watch, because most of these questions I have already asked. But is there a possibility that tomorrow, before the session starts, or next time whenever it does, first the parliamentary parties of both political sides actually meet and work out some kind of standing operating procedure so that use of violence can be avoided?
The basic requirement would be that the culprits must confess their crime. They must give a confessional statement. They must apologize from the House, from the nation. They have disgraced the House. They have they have dishonored and disgraced the entire House, representative of the whole nation.
Right, Cheema Saab. Let me very quickly come to Barrister Safiullah Ghori and then have to conclude.
I will just say a single sentence. We can go endlessly condemning the incidents that took place. We can keep calling for transparent inquiries. We can keep talking about how law should take its course and everything. My question is very simply, who amongst the parliamentarians, the entire parliament today, has the conscience to get up, go to Thana Kosar and file an FIR? Just say that I was a witness, I witnessed an incident in front of me. That's literally what an FIR is. First
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Have you, being a lawyer, do you also actually handle criminal cases?
Our law firm does, yes. We have.
Yeah, you do, right?
Yes.
And you are acquainted with the Thana culture?
That's besides the point. What
No,
I'm
no,
saying,
hang on,
Thana
hang on.
culture.
It's a very simple question. In Thanas, do you think any elite is that easily, charge sheet?
No, they're not. They're not. But that's what the culture. That's then that one singular MNA from the parliament will come out of the Thana Kusar and will say that the police has refused to file such an FIR because of the reason. So let's hold the police people accountable who are not performing their job, and so that everybody does what their duties are.
Yeah,